Intelligence Officer Young Hyeri spent days going through the captured Dominion databases. What she found made her understand why the Empire had seemed so powerful for so long. It was not just their weapons or their numbers. It was their system. General Choi, you need to see this. She called her commander to the analysis room. The Dominion doesn't just conquer worlds. They change the people on them. General Choi Ji-won looked at the data files spread across multiple screens. Each one showed a different species before and after joining the Dominion. The changes were subtle but horrifying. They breed out rebellion, Young Hyeri explained. Over several generations, they encourage the most obedient people to have children while preventing others from reproducing. After a few hundred years, entire species become naturally submissive. Dr. Cha Min-jae, the team's xenobiologist, pointed to genetic charts. Look at these brain scans. The parts of the mind that handle creativity and independent thinking are smaller in modern Dominion species than in historical samples. They're making slaves out of entire races, General Choi said quietly. No wonder no one successfully rebelled before. The database contained records of over 400 conquered worlds. Each one followed the same pattern: initial resistance, brutal suppression, then gradual genetic modification of the population over centuries. But General, Dr. Cha continued, humans never went through this process. We developed completely alone. We still have all our original traits, the good and the bad. Jiang Hyeri pulled up another file. There have been rebellions before, but they all failed for the same reason. The rebels were fighting with Dominion mindset and Dominion technology. They thought like their enemies. What makes us different? General Choi asked. We don't think like them at all, Dr. Cha replied. Where they see order, we see opportunities for chaos. Where they see established rules, we see problems to solve. Where they fight to maintain control, we fight to break things. Colonel Song. Ji-hyun entered the room, her uniform still dusty from a recent mission. Speaking of breaking things, we've got good news from the Kepler system. The liberation of Altair Prime was successful. The colonel activated a holographic display showing a planet covered in industrial complexes. 15 million slaves on this world were forced to mine rare metals for the Dominion. They've been free for exactly 6 hours. General Choi studied the tactical report. How many casualties? That's the remarkable part, Colonel Song replied. 0 human casualties. 57 alien casualties, all from accidents during the panic when our ships arrived. No combat deaths. The liberation of Altair Prime had been humanity's first attempt at freeing an enslaved world. Colonel Song had led 300 ships against the Dominion garrison, expecting a difficult fight. Instead, they found something unexpected. The Dominion forces on the planet had heard about the defeat at Earth. Half of them surrendered immediately when human ships appeared in orbit. The local commander actually thanked us, Colonel Song continued. He said he was tired of forcing people to work in the mines but couldn't disobey orders from his superiors. Dr. Cha pulled up biological data from the liberated world. Colonel, did you notice anything unusual about how the freed slaves behaved? Actually, yes, most of them just sat down and waited for instructions. They didn't know what to do with freedom. It was heartbreaking. That proves our theory, Dr. Cha said. After centuries of breeding, they've lost the ability to think independently. They need time to rediscover who they really are. Admiral Nam Kyung-min joined the meeting, carrying reports from across human space. We're getting contact requests from resistance groups on dozens of worlds. Word is spreading that someone finally defeated a Dominion fleet. He activated a star map showing the Dominion territory. Red dots marked worlds still under Empire control, while green dots showed liberated systems. The interesting thing is, we're not getting desperate pleas for help. We're getting offers of alliance. These resistance groups want to work with us, not hide behind us. Young Hyeri cross-referenced the intelligence data. That makes sense. The groups still fighting after all these centuries are the ones with enough original genetics left to resist modification. They're the closest thing to their ancestors' true nature. General Choi studied the map. How many resistance groups have made contact? Over 100 so far and more every day. But Admiral, we also have a problem. 3 more Dominion fleets are forming up for another attack on Earth. Admiral Nam nodded grimly. We expected this. Supreme Commander Vorth Kalar was just a regional leader. The Empire has dozens of fleets scattered across the galaxy. How many ships are they bringing this time? Colonel Song asked. Intelligence estimates 10,000 vessels, plus support craft, ships from at least 6 different species, including some we've never seen before. The room fell silent as everyone processed this information. 10,000 ships was 5 times larger than the fleet they had just defeated. Dr. Cha broke the silence. Admiral, I've been studying the psychology profiles of captured Dominion officers. I think I understand their strategy. Explain. They're not just trying to reconquer Earth. They're trying to prove to the galaxy that humans can be defeated. If they crush us publicly, it will destroy hope on all those resistant worlds. Young Hieri nodded agreement. The intelligence intercepts support this. They're planning to broadcast the battle across the galaxy. They want everyone to see Earth burn. General Choi stood up and walked to the star map. Then we'll give them a show they'll never forget, but not the one they're expecting. Admiral Nam looked at the general with interest. What do you have in mind? They want to prove that humans can be beaten? Fine. Let them bring everything they have. Let them gather their strongest fleets and their best commanders. Let them put on the biggest show in galactic history. She turned to face the room. And when they're all in one place, watching what they think will be humanity's destruction, we'll show the entire galaxy what we're really capable of. Colonel Song smiled. You're planning to use their own broadcast against them. Exactly. They want to send a message of despair to every enslaved world. Instead, we'll send a message of hope that will reach every corner of the galaxy. Dr. Cha pulled up genetic data from dozens of species. General, if this works, if we can really defeat such a large force and show it to everyone, the psychological impact will be enormous. How so? Remember, most of these species have been modified to be submissive. But deep down, buried in their genetics, the original fighting spirit still exists. A shock this big might wake it up. Young Hieri was already working on communication intercepts. We're also getting reports that Dominion forces on many worlds are starting to question their orders. Local commanders are asking their superiors why the Empire seems to be losing battles. Admiral Nam studied the tactical situation. If we can break their confidence completely, we might not need to liberate worlds one by one. They might liberate themselves. General Choi looked at her team. Then we're agreed. We let them come with everything they have. We fight the biggest battle in galactic history right here at Earth, and we make sure everyone in the galaxy watches us win. As the meeting broke up, each officer had their own preparations to make. Humanity was about to face its greatest test, but they were also about to give the galaxy its greatest hope in centuries. Supreme Leader Vorthak himself led the massive Dominion fleet toward Earth. 10,000 warships from 6 different species formed the largest military force ever assembled. This time, there would be no mistakes. Activate the galactic broadcast system, he ordered from his command dreadnought. Every world in the Empire will watch these humans die. Let this be a lesson to any who think they can resist us. Director Im Soo-jin watched the approaching fleet from Earth's Defense Command Center. The numbers were overwhelming, but she smiled anyway. Humanity had been very busy since the last attack. General Choi, we're receiving surrender demands from the Dominion fleet, she reported. Supreme Leader Vorthak himself is demanding we submit to prevent the destruction of our world. General Choi Ji-won stood before the main display, showing the massive alien armada. Open a channel to their fleet, Director. Across space, her voice reached every ship in the Dominion force. This is General Choi of Earth Defense Command. We have received your terms and must decline. However, we offer you the same choice we gave your predecessors. Leave in peace, or face the consequences. Supreme Leader Vorthak's laughter echoed through his command center. Consequences? You face 10,000 ships, human. Your arrogance will be remembered as the reason your species died today. But something was happening that the Dominion fleet did not expect. Ships began appearing near Earth, but not human vessels. These were craft from dozens of different species, bearing the marks of worlds the Dominion had conquered. Admiral Ryu Donghyuk coordinated the growing Allied fleet from his command ship. Confirming arrival of Liberation forces from Kepler Sector, he announced. 47 ships from 12 recently freed worlds. Arrival confirmed from Vega Resistance Fleet, came another report. 63 vessels from 8 systems. Centauri allies reporting in. 95 ships ready for combat. Supreme Leader Vorthak watched in growing alarm as more and more ships appeared to defend Earth. These were vessels from worlds his empire had conquered, now fighting alongside the humans. How is this possible? He demanded of his intelligence officer. These worlds were pacified centuries ago. Sir, we're detecting massive uprisings throughout the empire. Dozens of worlds have declared independence. They're sending their hidden fleets to support the humans. Captain Ominji led her attack squadron in a daring assault on the Dominion flagship. Her ships moved with the fluid grace that marked human tactics, appearing and disappearing as they struck at the massive enemy vessel. Target their communication arrays first, she ordered her pilots. If they can't coordinate, they can't fight effectively. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Dominion fought with traditional tactics, forming battle lines and concentrating fire. But the human-led alliance fought like no military force in history. Ships from liberated worlds provided local knowledge about Dominion weaknesses. Human vessels delivered precision strikes that crippled enemy ships without destroying them. And throughout the battle, something remarkable happened. Commander Kim Ji-ho opened a communication channel that broadcast to every ship in both fleets and, through them, to every world in the galaxy. His words would become legendary among free peoples everywhere. To all those who fight for freedom today, he said, remember why we are here. We do not fight for conquest or revenge. We fight so that no child in any world will grow up in chains. The effect on the Allied fleet was immediate. Ships that had been fighting defensively suddenly pressed forward with new determination. Crews that had been afraid to take risks became bold and decisive. But the effect on the Dominion forces was even more dramatic. Many alien crews, hearing these words and seeing former slaves fighting alongside humans as equals, began to question why they were fighting at all. Supreme Leader Vorthak tried to rally his forces, but it was too late. Ship after ship in his fleet either surrendered or simply stopped fighting. Those that continued to resist found themselves overwhelmed by an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. Sir, we've lost contact with 40% of our fleet, his tactical officer reported. Many ships are reporting mutinies among their crews. The Dominion leader realized he was witnessing the collapse of his empire in real time, not through military defeat alone, but through the awakening of something his people had tried to breed out of their subjects for centuries. Captain Ominji's squadron finally broke through the flagship's defenses. Her ships surrounded the massive vessel, their weapons trained on its vital systems. Supreme Leader Vorthak, she broadcast, your ship is disabled and your fleet is in retreat. Do you surrender? The alien ruler looked around his bridge at officers who no longer met his eyes. Half his crew had already laid down their weapons. The mighty Dominion, which had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years, was crumbling before his eyes. How? He whispered. How did you turn our own people against us? Admiral Ryu Donghyuk's voice answered from the human flagship. We didn't turn them, Supreme Leader. We reminded them who they really are. As the battle ended with the Dominion's complete defeat, something even more remarkable began to happen. The galactic broadcast that was supposed to show humanity's destruction instead showed something else entirely. Across thousands of worlds, enslaved peoples watched human crews working alongside aliens who had been their enemies just hours before. They saw Dominion soldiers helping to rescue survivors from damaged ships. They watched as former slaves and former masters worked together to save lives. Director Im Soo-jin monitored communications from across the galaxy. General, we're receiving reports of uprisings on over 300 worlds. The Dominion's authority is collapsing everywhere. But the most important moment came when a young alien from one of the liberated ships approached Supreme Leader Vorthak during the surrender ceremony. The child had been born into slavery but was now free. Why did you make us live in cages? The child asked simply. Vorthak stared at this small being and realized he had no answer. For 3,000 years, his empire had told itself that conquest was natural, that the strong should rule the weak. But looking at this child who showed no fear or hatred despite everything, he finally understood what humans had really brought to the galaxy. They had brought the idea that everyone deserved to be free. As the remnants of the Dominion fleet either surrendered or fled, Admiral Ryu addressed the Allied forces. "This battle is over, but our work is just beginning. There are still millions of people throughout the galaxy who need our help." Commander Kim Ji-ho added his own message to the broadcast that was still reaching every corner of known space. "To all those who still suffer under oppression, know this: you are not alone. Freedom is coming, and it brings friends." The Battle of Earth had ended with more than just a military victory. It had sparked a galactic revolution that would reshape civilization itself, and at the center of it all were humans who had refused to accept that suffering was inevitable. Supreme Leader Vorthak, now a prisoner on Admiral Ryu's ship, asked one final question. "What will you do with us? What will you do with our empire?" "Admiral," Ryu's answer was simple. "We're going to teach you how to be free." The Dominion fleet found itself surrounded by ships that defied everything they knew about warfare. Fleet Admiral Ko Taejun commanded the human forces from his flagship Indomitable, a vessel that dwarfed even the largest alien ships. "All units, this is Admiral Ko," his voice carried across the human fleet. "Remember, we're not here to conquer. We're here to protect Earth and free those who suffer under Dominion rule." Supreme Commander Vorthkaller stared at the display showing thousands of human vessels. His tactical officer's voice shook as he reported the numbers. "Sir, we count over 3,000 enemy ships. They're not just around Earth, they're throughout the entire solar system." Captain Shinarium led her elite squadron, the Void Hunters, in a demonstration of human tactical thinking. While the Dominion ships tried to form traditional battle lines, the human vessels moved in patterns that seemed impossible. "How are they doing that?" Vorthkaller demanded. "Our sensors show them folding space itself." His science officer studied the readings with growing fear. "Commander, they're not using hyperspace like we do. They're actually bending the fabric of space-time around their ships. They can appear anywhere instantly." The first exchange of fire showed the terrible difference between the two forces. Dominion plasma weapons, which had destroyed countless worlds, struck human ships and simply vanished into strange energy fields. The human response was devastating. Lieutenant Lee Young-ho monitored alien communications from his post aboard a stealth ship. What he heard made him sad for their enemies. "The alien commanders are panicking," he reported. "They're saying their weapons do nothing while ours tear through their shields like paper." The human weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Instead of simple energy beams, they used exotic matter that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Alien armor, designed to stop conventional attacks, could not even detect these weapons until they struck. Captain Shin Arium led her squadron in a perfect example of human tactics. While the aliens tried to protect their command ships by surrounding them with smaller vessels, the Void Hunters simply appeared inside the protective formation. "Target their weapons and engines only," she ordered her pilots. "We want prisoners, not corpses." One by one, Dominion ships found themselves helpless, as human weapons disabled them without destroying them completely. The aliens had never faced an enemy that fought with such precision. Supreme Commander Vorthkaller realized his fleet was being taken apart piece by piece. In desperation, he ordered his ships to target Earth itself. If he could not win the battle, perhaps he could still hurt the humans where it mattered most. "All ships target the human homeworld. If we cannot defeat their fleet, we will destroy what they protect." But when his weapons fired at Earth, they struck not the planet, but a series of hidden orbital platforms. The beams scattered harmlessly into space, just like during the first attack. "Sir, the planet is completely protected by some kind of shield grid," his weapons officer reported. "Our shots cannot get through." Lieutenant Lee Young-ho intercepted another alien communication that made him smile. "Admiral, they just realized something. They're asking why there are no human cities visible on Earth's surface." Fleet Admiral Ko answered the unspoken question. Tell them, Lieutenant. Lee opened a channel to the alien fleet. Attention, Dominion forces. Earth cities are protected in orbital habitats and underground facilities. Your threats against our civilians are meaningless. This was too much for Supreme Commander Vorth Kalar. His mighty fleet was being destroyed. His weapons were useless, and now he learned that the humans had prepared for this battle so completely that they had moved their entire population to safety. What manner of species are you? He broadcast to the human fleet. The answer came from Marshal Park Sang-woo, whose voice carried across space to every ship in both fleets. We are humans, Commander. We do not start fights, but we always finish them. This cannot be your full military, Vorth Kalar said desperately. No single world could build so many ships. Marshal Park's next words sent shockwaves through the surviving alien vessels. Commander, you are correct. This is not our full military. This is our home defense fleet. Our main battle fleets are currently in the Andromeda sector, liberating worlds from another empire that made the same mistakes you did. The alien commander could not process what he was hearing. Andromeda? That's another galaxy. Yes. We've been exploring for some time now. Your Dominion is not the only threat in the universe, so we prepared accordingly. As more Dominion ships fell to human weapons, Vorth Kalar made one final desperate gambit. He ordered his remaining vessels to ram the human ships, hoping to take some of them down in suicidal attacks. But even this failed. Human ships simply moved out of the way at the last second, their space-folding technology making them impossible to catch. The few alien ships that tried this tactic found themselves captured in energy fields and gently brought to a stop. Captain Shin Aryam's voice came over the communication channel. We have disabled their command ship, Admiral. Supreme Commander. Vorth Kalar is our prisoner. Fleet Admiral Ko surveyed the battlefield. Of the 2,000 Dominion ships, only a few hundred remained functional, and those were completely disabled. Not a single human vessel had been destroyed. Open a channel. To the remaining alien ships, he ordered. Attention, Dominion fleet. Your commanders told you that resistance to your empire was impossible. You have seen today that this was a lie. Any ship that wishes to surrender will be treated fairly. Any that wish to leave may go freely, but know that your empire's days of conquest are over. Many alien ships chose to surrender. Their crews had seen enough to know that continued resistance was hopeless. But some chose to flee, carrying news of humanity's power back to their empire. As the surviving ships prepared to leave, Marshal Park sent them a final message. Tell your leaders that Earth offers friendship to all who come in peace. But tell them also that we will defend not only ourselves, but any who ask for our protection. Supreme Commander Vorth Kalar, now a prisoner aboard the Indomitable, spoke with Fleet Admiral Ko in his cell. Your species fights like nothing we have ever seen. How is this possible? Admiral Ko sat across from his prisoner, his expression calm but firm. Commander, your empire has ruled through fear for thousands of years. You forgot that some things are worth fighting for, even against impossible odds. But your tactics, your weapons, your coordination, how did one world develop? All this? We didn't, Admiral Ko replied simply. We learned from every species your empire destroyed. We studied every resistance movement your forces crushed. We took their best ideas and made them better. The alien commander stared at his captor. You did this for strangers you never met? We did this because it was right, Admiral Ko said. Your empire ends here, Commander. The galaxy is about to become a very different place. As human ships began rescue operations for disabled alien vessels, the crews worked side by side with their former enemies. Many Dominion soldiers, seeing humans risk their lives to save even those who had tried to kill them, began to understand that they had served the wrong cause. Lieutenant Lee Young-ho intercepted communications from across the galaxy. Word of the Dominion's defeat was spreading faster than their remaining ships could carry it. On dozens of enslaved worlds, people were hearing that someone had finally stood up to their oppressors and won. The High Council of the Galactic Dominion sat in their great hall on the capital world, listening to Admiral Kethvar's report with growing anger and disbelief. The massive chamber, built to show the power of their empire, felt smaller as the admiral described his defeat. "You lost 180 ships to primitives?" Supreme Leader Vorthak's voice echoed through the hall. "This is impossible." Admiral Kethvar stood before the council, his uniform torn and his pride shattered. "The humans had weapons we have never seen before. Ships that appeared from nothing. Technology that made our shields useless." Council member Zethara leaned forward. "Perhaps they found ancient weapons, or maybe other species helped them. No single world could defeat our fleet alone." "They claimed it was just their local defense," Kethvar said quietly. "They said their real military was not even involved." The council erupted in angry voices. Some members shouted that it was impossible. Others demanded immediate revenge. Supreme Leader Vorthak raised his hand for silence. "We have ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years, he declared. "No single world has ever defeated us. These humans must have found something, or someone is helping them. We will send a real fleet this time." Admiral Kethvar was given 2,000 ships and told to return to Earth with forces from 3 allied species. The Dominion would show these humans what real power looked like. Meanwhile on Earth, General Choi Ji-won walked through the Wreckage Analysis Center. Pieces of alien ships covered the floor, being studied by teams of scientists. The technology was advanced, but in strange ways. Dr. Han Seokmin approached her, holding a piece of alien armor. "General, we've learned something interesting. Their technology is very old, not primitive, but ancient. They stopped improving it long ago." "What do you mean?" the general asked. "Look at this armor," Dr. Han explained. "It's perfectly designed to stop energy weapons, but it's the same design they've used for hundreds of years. They never thought anyone would use different weapons." General Choi nodded. "They got comfortable. They stopped expecting surprises." In another part of the facility, Ambassador Yoon Haeun studied the alien database they had captured. What she found made her sick to her stomach. The Dominion had destroyed or enslaved over 400 worlds. Billions of people lived under their rule, forced to work in mines and factories. "We cannot let this continue," she told her team. "These people need help." Commander Bae Jin-soo entered the room, carrying a report. "Ambassador, we've decoded more of their communications. 3 more fleets are coming. They're bringing ships from other species too." "How many ships?" General Choi asked. "At least 2,000, maybe more." The general smiled grimly. "Good. Let them come with everything they have. It's time to show the galaxy what we're really capable of." Unknown to the aliens, humanity had been preparing for this day for over 50 years. When Earth first detected alien signals from deep space, they realized they were not alone. But instead of trying to make contact, human leaders decided to watch and learn first. What they learned frightened them. The galaxy was ruled by an empire that crushed anyone who opposed them. So Earth began to prepare in secret. Hidden shipyards were built throughout the solar system. New weapons were developed in secret laboratories. Most importantly, humans began to think differently about war than any species the Dominion had ever faced. Ambassador Yoon Haeun contacted resistance groups on enslaved worlds using captured Dominion communication codes. Her message was simple. "Earth stands with you. Freedom is coming." The response amazed her. Dozens of worlds had been waiting for someone to lead them. They had weapons hidden away, plans for rebellion, and hoped that someone would finally challenge the Dominion. Dr. Han Seokmin made another discovery while studying alien biology. "General, I think I know why they stopped improving their technology. Look at these genetic scans." He showed her data from captured alien prisoners. "Every species in the Dominion has been changed over time. They've been bred to be less creative, less willing to fight back. They follow orders and don't ask questions. But humans developed alone," General Choi realized. "We kept all our original traits." "Exactly. We're still stubborn, creative, and willing to take risks. To them, we must seem insane." As the new Dominion fleet prepared to attack Earth, they had no idea what they were really facing. They thought they were fighting primitives, who had gotten lucky. They did not understand that they were about to face a species that had spent decades preparing for war. Commander Bei Jinsu coordinated with defense commanders throughout the solar system. Earth was not humanity's only stronghold. Mars had its own fleet. The asteroid belt was full of hidden bases. Even the outer planets had defensive platforms. "Sir, the alien fleet has entered our sensor range," reported Lieutenant Park Dong-hyun. 2,000 ships, just like intelligence predicted. "Any word from the diplomatic team?" the commander asked. Ambassador Yoon sent them the same offer as last time: peaceful contact and trade. They refused and demanded surrender. Commander Bei sighed. "Some people never learn. Signal all units. Prepare for Phase 2. The Dominion fleet approached Earth, confident in their overwhelming numbers. Supreme Commander Vorthkalar, leading the attack personally, studied the seemingly empty space around the human world. "Where are their ships?" he wondered aloud. "Sensors show nothing." "Perhaps they fled when they saw our numbers," suggested his second-in-command. But as the fleet moved closer, a single human ship appeared before them. It was small and unarmed, broadcasting a simple message. "This is Marshal Park Sang-woo of Earth Defense Command. You have 10 minutes to withdraw from our system. This is your only warning." The Dominion commanders laughed. One small ship against 2,000? These humans were either incredibly brave or completely insane. Supreme Commander Vorthkalar opened a channel to the human vessel. "Surrender now, and we will be merciful. Continue this foolishness, and your world will burn, Marshal." Park's voice came back calm and steady. "Commander, you are making the same mistake as those who came before you. We do not want to fight you, but we will defend our home." "With one ship against 2,000? Vorthkalar mocked. "No," came the reply. "With this." Space around the Dominion fleet suddenly erupted with light as thousands of human ships appeared, from nowhere. They had been there all along, invisible to alien sensors, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Supreme Commander Vorthkalar stared in shock at the massive fleet surrounding his ships. "This is impossible," he whispered. But this time, humanity was done playing defensive. Earth had decided to end the threat once and for all. The massive alien warships dropped out of hyperspace near Earth like giant metal sharks. Admiral Kethvar looked at the blue planet through his command ship's windows and smiled. "Another easy conquest for the Galactic Dominion. Sir, we're picking up primitive radio signals from the planet," his communications officer reported. "They call their world Earth. The species calls themselves humans." Kethvar nodded. 200 warships should be more than enough to handle whatever these humans had. Every species they had met followed the same pattern. First contact, then fear, then surrender. The Dominion had done this dance with over 400 worlds. "Send the usual message," he ordered. "Tell them to surrender or face destruction." But something unexpected happened. Instead of panic or immediate surrender, a single small ship approached the Dominion fleet. The vessel looked strange to alien eyes, with smooth lines and no visible weapons. "Admiral, the human ship is requesting permission to board for negotiations," the officer said, sounding confused. Kethvar laughed. "Let them come. This should be amusing." 3 humans walked into the Admiral's meeting room an hour later. Captain Lee Dae-hyun wore a simple blue uniform with no fancy decorations. Engineer Park Mina carried a small device that translated their words. Diplomat Kim Woo-jin held a folder with what looked like official papers. "Welcome to our solar system," Kim Woo-jin said politely. "We hope we can solve this peacefully." The alien admiral studied these strange creatures. They looked weak, with soft skin and no natural weapons, but they showed no fear at all. Most species trembled when meeting the Dominion for the first time. "Your world will surrender immediately," Kethvar declared. "Your people will become workers for the Empire. Your resources belong to us now." "This is how things work." Captain Lee Dae-hyun shook his head. "We cannot accept those terms. Perhaps we can find another solution." "There is no other solution," the Admiral roared. "Every species in the galaxy bows to the Dominion. You are nothing special." Park Mina looked at her small device and whispered something to her companions. Kim Woojin nodded and turned back to the alien commander. We understand your position, but we must decline your offer. We suggest peaceful trade instead. We have much to offer. Kethavar could not believe what he was hearing. These primitives were refusing the might of the Galactic Dominion? He had seen this kind of defiance before, but never from such a weak-looking species. You dare refuse us? He snarled. We will show you what happens to those who resist. He turned to his weapons officer. Target their largest cities, fire a warning shot, show them our power. The human delegation exchanged quick glances. Captain Lee stepped forward. Admiral, we strongly advise against that action. You advise? Kethavar laughed. Watch your cities burn, human. Bright energy beams shot down from the alien ships toward Earth's major cities. But something impossible happened. The beams struck invisible barriers and scattered harmlessly into space. The cities below remained untouched. What? Kethavar spun toward his tactical officer. Why didn't the weapons work? Sir, they have some kind of shield technology. Our sensors can't understand it. Kim Woojin sighed sadly. We tried to warn you. Admiral, now you have attacked us. We must respond. Suddenly, space around the Dominion fleet erupted with activity. Ships appeared from nowhere as if they had been hiding in empty space itself. But these were not primitive vessels. They moved, with impossible grace and speed. Where did they come from? Kethavar shouted. Our sensors showed nothing. The human ships opened fire, but not with energy beams like the aliens used. Strange weapons that seemed to bend space itself struck the Dominion vessels. Alien shields, designed to stop energy attacks, proved useless against these weapons. One by one, the mighty Dominion warships began to explode or drift helplessly in space. Their advanced armor meant nothing. Their powerful shields failed completely. In just 6 hours, 180 ships were destroyed or disabled. Captain Lee watched the battle from the alien flagship's bridge with a sad expression. This did not need to happen, he said quietly. Kethavar could not understand what was occurring. His mighty fleet, which had conquered hundreds of worlds, was being destroyed by what he had thought were primitives. How is this possible? He whispered. Park Mina looked at her device again. Your technology is very old, Admiral. You stopped growing and learning long ago. We never stopped. The remaining 20 Dominion ships tried to escape, but the human vessels let them go. Captain Lee activated his communicator and sent a message to the fleeing aliens. Tell your empire what happened here today, he said calmly. Tell them this was just our local defense force. Our real military has not even been told about this attack yet. Admiral Kethavar stared at the human in shock. Local defense force? What do you mean? Kim Woojin answered. Every human world has ships like these for protection, but we also have exploration fleets, research fleets, and yes, military fleets. They are much larger and better armed than what you face today. That's impossible, Kethavar breathed. Admiral, we offered you peaceful trade, Captain Lee said. We wanted to be friends, but you chose violence. Please tell your leaders that Earth is protected. We do not want war, but we will defend ourselves and our friends. As the damaged Dominion ships limped away from Earth, Kethavar realized he had made a terrible mistake. These humans were not primitives at all. They had been playing with him, trying to avoid bloodshed. Park Mina packed up her translation device. We hope your people will choose peace next time, she said. We have much to share with those who come in friendship. The three humans left the alien ship and returned to their own vessel. As they flew back toward Earth, Captain Lee looked at his companions. Do you think they will listen? He asked. Kim Woojin shook his head. Empires like theirs never listen until they have no choice. They will be back with more ships. Then we will be ready, Park Mina said simply. The galaxy is about to learn what humans really are. Behind them, the wreckage of the Dominion fleet drifted in space, a warning to any who might follow. Earth had announced itself to the galaxy, and the announcement had been written in fire and steel. 3 months after the Battle of Earth, President Lee Yunji stood before the First Galactic Council of Free Worlds. The Great Hall, built from materials donated by 300 different species, represented something the galaxy had never seen before, a government based on cooperation instead of conquest. "Friends from across the stars," she began, her words translated into hundreds of languages simultaneously. "We gather today not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals working toward a common future." Ambassador Quan Jae-hyun watched from the human delegation as representatives from former Dominion worlds took their seats. Many still looked uncomfortable with the idea of speaking as equals to other species, but they were learning. "The transition has not been easy," he reported to President Lee during a break in the sessions. "Many worlds don't know how to govern themselves after centuries of taking orders." "That's understandable," the president replied. "Freedom is a skill that must be practiced." In another part of the galaxy, General Seo Yoo-jin oversaw the dismantling of the last slave camp on Proxima 7. Millions of beings who had spent their entire lives in chains were finally walking free. "General, we have a problem," reported Captain Park Sang-hyun. "Many of the freed slaves don't want to leave the camps. They're afraid of life outside." General Seo nodded sadly. "This is what 3,000 years of oppression does to people. We'll need counselors, not just soldiers." The work was heartbreaking but necessary. Entire species had forgotten what freedom meant. Children had been born into slavery and knew nothing else. Adults had never made a choice more important than what to eat for breakfast. Dr. Lee Min-soo, a human psychologist, worked with alien specialists to develop rehabilitation programs. "We're not just healing physical wounds," she explained to her team. "We're healing the damage done to entire cultures." Meanwhile, Director Park Hansel of Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Division was finally able to reveal humanity's greatest secret to the Galactic Council. "Representatives of the free worlds," he addressed the assembly, "it is time you learned the full truth about humanity's role in recent events." The hall fell silent as he activated a holographic display showing Earth as it appeared 50 years ago. "We have known about the Dominion for over a century," he announced. "We detected their communications, studied their technology, and learned about their empire long before they knew we existed." Shocked whispers filled the hall. Former Dominion officials stared in disbelief. "You knew we were coming?" asked former Supreme Leader Vorthak, who now served as an advisor to help with the transition. "Why didn't you contact us?" Director Park's answer was simple. "Because we saw what you did to species that made peaceful contact. Every single one was enslaved or destroyed." He showed images from the Dominion's own records. First contacts that ended in conquest, peaceful species turned into slaves, entire civilizations wiped out for resisting. So we made a different choice. We decided to prepare. The display showed the hidden construction that had taken place throughout human space. Shipyards disguised as asteroid mining operations, weapon laboratories built inside hollow moons, training facilities that taught human children about alien psychology and technology. Every human born in the last 50 years has known this day would come, Director Park continued. We prepared our entire civilization for war, but not for conquest, for liberation. Fleet Admiral Jung Yuri stood to address the assembly. The Dominion always wondered why their first attack on Earth seemed so easy to repel. The truth is, we let them escape on purpose. More shocked murmurs filled the hall. We needed them to return with larger forces so we could capture more of their technology and gather more intelligence about their empire. Every attack they made gave us more information about worlds that needed to be freed. Former Admiral Kethvar, who had led the first attack on Earth, spoke from the audience. "You mean our defeats were planned from the beginning?" "Not your defeats, specifically," Admiral Jung replied. "But we knew that any empire based on oppression would eventually face rebellion. We just made sure that when the rebellion came, it would succeed." President Lee stood to address the most important question. "You may wonder what humanity wants in return for our help. The answer is simple. We want what we've always wanted. We want to explore the galaxy and learn from other species. We want to share what we know and learn what others have discovered. Most importantly, we want to make sure that no species ever again suffers what you have suffered." The response from the assembled representatives was overwhelming. Species after species rose to pledge their support for the new galactic order. Many offered to share their knowledge and resources with Earth and each other. But the most moving moment came when a child from one of the liberated worlds approached the human delegation. The young being, barely old enough to speak clearly, looked up at President Lee with large, curious eyes. "Are you going to leave us now?" the child asked through a translator. President Lee knelt down to the child's level. "Why would you think that? The grown-ups say you came from far away to help us. Now that we're free, are you going home?" The hall fell completely silent as everyone waited for the president's answer. This was the question in everyone's mind. What would humanity do now that their mission seemed complete? President Lee smiled and spoke directly to the child, but her words were meant for everyone present. "Little one, we came here to help because that's what friends do for each other. And friends don't abandon each other when times get difficult." She stood and addressed the entire assembly. "Humanity has no intention of leaving this galaxy. We are part of it now, just as all of you are part of it. We will continue to explore, to learn, and yes, to protect those who need protection." Admiral Jung added her own promise. "Our fleets will continue to patrol the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as guardians. Any species that tries to rebuild an empire through conquest will find us standing in their way." As the first session of the Galactic Council ended, delegates from hundreds of worlds began the slow work of building a new civilization. There would be challenges ahead, species that had been enemies for centuries learning to cooperate, worlds that had forgotten how to be free, remembering what independence meant. But there was also hope. For the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy belonged to its people rather than to an empire. Children could grow up free, species could develop their own cultures, and the stars themselves seemed brighter. Later that evening, President Lee stood on the observation deck of the council station looking out at the stars. Ambassador Quan joined her, carrying reports from across the galaxy. "Ma'am, we're receiving requests for assistance from 17 more systems. It seems there were other empires out there we hadn't discovered yet." President Lee nodded. "Then, our work continues. Are you worried about the future?" he asked. "We've taken on a big responsibility." She thought for a moment, watching ships from dozens of species working together to build humanity's vision of a free galaxy. "No, Ambassador, I'm not worried, because we're not doing this alone anymore." In the distance, human ships patrolled alongside vessels from liberated worlds, their crews working together to ensure that freedom would never again be something that existed only in dreams. The galaxy had learned an important lesson from humanity: that the strongest force in the universe was not conquest or control, but the simple idea that everyone deserved to be free, and as long as there were people willing to fight for that idea, it would never be defeated. As President Lee watched the stars, she smiled, knowing that somewhere out there, a child who had been born into slavery was now falling asleep in freedom. For the first time, that alone made everything worthwhile.